EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Hello and welcome to Anomaly-NOW. I'm your host, Miles Lewis, transmitting to you from Austin, Texas. This is the weekly, very rarely live news and media roundup for the nonprofit 501c3 Scientific Anomaly Institute, aka the Anomaly Archives, again located here in Austin, Texas, transmitting to all points around the world, across the universe, and other dimensions, time streams, bifurcation points, timelines, all that stuff. It is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, and thank you for joining us. Got tons of news. You can, of course, go to the website, anomalyarchives.org, and you can find all kinds of links to past episodes, the show notes for past episodes of Anomaly-NOW, information on our nonprofit mission of preservation. We have over 7,000 books and thousands of periodicals and digital files and other materials. We've been around since 2003 here in Austin, Texas. And as you can see on the screen, if you're watching this, you can contact at anomalyarchives.org is the email address. You can also find a P.O. box where we have snail mail able to be delivered and all that good stuff. Well, let's dive right in. We've been covering all kinds of stuff. And of course, we'll be covering news that you can find at our Flipboard, flipboard.com/@anomalyarchives. That's the @ symbol. Also, you can find information about our new upcoming event. This coming week, December 18th, we are going to have Brad Abrahams present on Close Encounters of the Humankind. He's going to explore the cinema of the unseen. You might know Brad from his documentaries like Love and Saucers, Do You See What I See, a short documentary about the unofficial artist of conspiracy theory culture, the controversial and recently departed David Dees. He also does special QAA podcast miniseries like The Spectral Voyager and The Outer Dimensional Forces UFO Cult. That's an interesting UFO cult here in Texas, as well as another number of other wonderful projects, including Telos or Bust, Keep Folklore Alive, Swan Song of the Skunk Ape, and many, many others. Of course, you can find out more about that upcoming event over at the website, anomalyarchives.org, or our Patreon. That's patreon.com/anomalyarchives. And yes, we've posted that we've got this upcoming event next week, December 18th. That's next Thursday, not tomorrow, but next Thursday, a week and a day. We're having Brad Abrahams present Close Encounters of the Humankind. Yeah, so you can join our Patreon for free, but we would love it if you would commit to donating $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. $10 a month gets you access to those monthly online lectures, including this one from Brad Abrahams, as well as the growing back catalog of materials of past lectures and whatnot. Okay, so yeah, over at the Flipboard, a ton of great news, so much that we can never cover it all. I'm going to dive in with some UFO stuff in just a second, but a place that's near and dear to my heart here in Austin, Texas is the downtown Main Public Library, or at least its original location next to the Austin History Center downtown. I went to elementary school at Pease Elementary, and a historic elementary school that's right downtown. here in Austin, Texas. And my friends and I, for the last several years of our time there, probably 4th through 6th grade, we would walk to our daycare center, which was the Austin Public Library right there downtown, the Henry Falk Center, I believe is what it's called. And we would spend so many hours and hours there waiting for our parents to come pick us up and just decompressing from school and reading books. And so with a few years ago, a new main downtown public library branch was built right there on the river. I still have not set foot in it. I hear it's incredible. I've heard it described as a church to libraries and information science, but that some people find it a little too modern and not enough books. But yeah, they're trying to transition to less paper and all that. And I do really want to go there. But the old building where I used to work, one of my first jobs, I think it was the first job I had right out of high school, was working for just over a year there at the Austin Public Library, the original Henry Falk library building location. And well, thankfully they haven't torn it down. They've renovated it, and now there is a grand opening that just happened this past Sunday. I have not been able to go yet, but I'm really excited to go and see what they've done with the place there. And one of the pictures that's on the carousel there is the grand staircase that goes from the lobby to the second floor. Yeah, like I say, this place is near and dear to my heart. So is the Austin History Center next door, which is a historic building and has long outgrown its ability to store Austin's history. But now it has this new modernized old facility that I'm just so excited to go and explore, having had so many important experiences there growing up. So yay. So yes, over at kxan.com, Transformational Austin History Center announces grand reopening. Very excited about that. Something weird that I saw on my way to just driving around South Austin. I think it was yesterday. I was behind a car with a a very strange bumper sticker that said, "Goblins are real. Goblins stole my son." And it said goblinsstolemy.org. It had a website associated with it. And I'm like, oh my God, this has got to be a joke, right? And indeed, I do think it is a joke. But yeah, if you go to goblinsstolemy.org, you get this page. Bring Geronimo home. Facts. Goblins are real. They stole my son in 2005. The police don't care. I want him back. And it's got these strange two pictures of, I guess it's supposed to be a goblin. Looks just like a young kid or dressed up in some very strange cultural material with skulls and other things with their eyes blacked out. And then in small letters, it says full identity redacted to maintain privacy. And the page, all it has is on Monday, October 31st, 2005, my 6-year-old son was stolen from me by a group of small green goblins while we were making our way through his trick-or-treat route. After only 3.5 short years of investigations, the Mishawaka Police Department gave up their official search on May 17th, 2009, telling my wife and I to, quote unquote, chalk it up as a loss. My God. In the time since, we have continued and will continue to work tirelessly to bring our boy home, but with no new information and dwindling resources, we come to you now for help. If you have any information regarding Geronimo's whereabouts or intel on goblins in the Northwest Indiana region that may aid in our search, please reach out immediately. Contact info at the link below. God bless you. Well, the link below, you click more information and it goes to fantasyinitiative.com, which is this very strange, old looking, really like old school webpage. Welcome to the Fantasy Initiative official webpage. There doesn't seem to be really any explanation or connection to the other page. I don't think it mentions it. I don't know. It's very, very strange. I haven't fully explored that, but what you gonna do? Yeah, it's very, very odd. So yeah, these are somebody's keeping Austin weird, though. It sounds like they moved here from Indiana. Who knows? Okay, well, moving right along to some fun free materials. I like to bring people's attention to this kind of free online material. So over at newthinkingallowed.org, that is, of course, Jeffrey Mishlov's page, Conversations on the Leading Edge of Knowledge and Discovery. He has uploaded freely accessible, downloadable PDFs of the physical magazine, New Thinking Allowed. I believe it's an annual magazine. I guess they've been doing it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It looks like it's quarterly. Yeah, so there's 9 issues. The very first issue, Volume 1, Spring 2003, Jacques Vallée there on the cover. Third issue has Chris Bledsoe on the cover. The fourth issue has none other than billionaire Bob Bigelow on the cover. And it's just great that he's making these available for free. And you can actually order them if you would like a physical print copy. You can order those online too. That's pretty cool, I think. Let's see. Also over at scientificexploration.org, that is the website of the SSE, the Society for Scientific Exploration. Scientificexploration.org. There is the latest free online issue of their The Explorer, latest news from the Society for Scientific Exploration, December 2025. With sections titled Maverick Milestones, President's Message, Items of Interest, Member Spotlight, and a Farewell Funny. Again, just fun online free materials. Always great to share those with our audience. And yeah, check that out. So, I consume so much material. And lately, something that was brought to my attention. Oh, is this not loading? There we go. Yeah, gosh. Okay. I'm jumping around here, but, so over at the QAA podcast, that's the QAnon Anonymous podcast. This is a conspiracy critique podcast. It's been going for a long time. Of course, inspired by the, craziness of the conspiracy culture that manifested the QAnon type materials, and how that has so much become a part of our everyday lives now with the current administration. And one of their premium episodes that I had the pleasure of listening to lately was called Alien Ant Farms and Space Communists. And it deals with yet another one of these alleged Reddit, 4chan whistleblowers, UFO whistleblowers. So, we've been talking about, documentaries like the Age of Disclosure and all the people in there who are part of the current UFO UAP disclosure movement and trying to get the Congress or the president to do something about the subject. Well, as always, the QAA folks have brought my attention to something, as did another good friend of mine. They're not my good friends, but a good friend of mine brought my attention to one of the latest Reddit threads. And that's what they're talking about in this particular episode. And that Reddit thread is titled, "You Want a Disclosure? I am a whistleblower, recently retired from the inside, and you're only getting part of the truth." And it puts forth a very bizarre conspiracy theory about what's really going on with the UFO scene, the UFO phenomenon, and the cover-up. And I bring it up in the context of how it dovetails with other recent Reddit-oriented alleged whistleblower insiders. Now, obviously, this could all just be LARPing, live action role playing, or chaos fiction, or just people having a laugh, creating hoaxes, that sort of thing. And and that's, Occam's razor. That's the most likely explanation here, since there is no evidence for any of this stuff. But it reminded me of these other ones that have come up the last couple of years. I think it was 2 years ago. This one came up on Reddit. From the late 2000s to the mid 2010s, I worked as a molecular biologist for a national security contractor in a program to study exobiospheric organisms, EBO. Excuse me. I will share with you a lot of information on the subject. Feel free to ask questions or ask for clarification. And then a few months previous to that, over on 4chan, I believe, was this person claiming, I have intimate knowledge of what the U.S. currently knows about UFOs minus the last 2 years. And they were saying UFOs are primarily unmanned drones. UFOs are built to spec each time they are deployed. UFOs are created by a mobile construction facility that hides in the ocean. Construction facility destroys anything that comes close to it and will disappear for days when approached aggressively. U.S. believes the facility has been active on Earth for at least 100 years or much longer. And then the person said, fire away on questions. I'll answer what I can. You won't be disappointed. But I remembered how this reminded me of back in August of 2023 on that week's Anomaly-NOW show. I played 2 clips from an episode of Walter Bosley's Lost Continent YouTube channel. And yeah, you can go to the show notes for that page and find the links to that. Or you can watch the episode, and somewhere around the 24-minute mark, I start playing those clips. That also happens to be the episode where we're talking about the Peruvian hoverboard jetpack aliens, the alien attacks, that craziness. But the particular episode of Walter Bosley's channel was called Ufology on Parade with guests Tim Banal and Joshua Cutchin. And the clips I played mainly had to do with the idea of the changing nature of the UFO phenomenon, and how Walter Bosley was saying that, he believes that the phenomena is maintained, part of the way it maintains its plausible deniability, if you will, or self-negating aspect, which is this idea that some of the absurdity and a lot of the really strangest, high weirdness aspects of the UFO encounter narratives are some sort of attempt by the phenomena to self-negate, keep people from reporting it, because the stranger the experience, the less likely they are to report it publicly, and how much more personalized that is. But Joshua and Tim kind of go off on a different angle in a different part of the clips where, and I don't want to replay it, but basically they're saying how, maybe the changing nature of the phenomena, if you consider this idea that it appeared as airships during the 1890s, early 1900s with the airship scare, and then the different close encounter types and monster types and contactee, there are all these different aspects of the quote unquote UFO history and the different phases that it seems like the phenomena may have gone through. And again, just disregarding the fact that a lot of people think that the airships were just journalistic hoaxes, or that the contactees were hoaxes, or, there's all these different explanations that you can try to invoke for each of these different things, and think you can try to separate them and say they're not related at all. But I find what they had to say interesting, in that it was that maybe we're now we could already be in a phase where we're not even going to have quote unquote traditional UFO sightings. And it seemed like Tim kind of invoked, and Joshua, playing off of what Joshua said, that we may be in a time where it's going to being described as these AI self-replicating type of phenomena. And Banal saying, yeah, it's like it's in the cloud. It's just in the fabric of the circuitry of the universe, and maybe that's what the next phase will be like. And I thought this was a pretty profound insight, and I do feel like it's kind of being borne out. And I think they were kind of riffing, because this was in again August of 2023, which, if you go back to what I was just saying about this, April 2023 4chan alleged whistleblower is basically putting forth this idea. Is these ideas are being seeded either through just as fictional elements by these hoaxers or whatever, or maybe maybe it's a disinformation campaign on the part of some other government, military, human intelligence agencies. Who knows? But this idea is now part of it, and it's obviously just a part of our culture that we're going through now. The dealing with the implications of artificial intelligence, dealing with robotics, dealing with drone technology, and how all these things intersect, and the difficulty in determining what is real, what is not real, with deep fake technology, that sort of thing. But this theme comes up, I think, in all of these three Reddit or 4chan whistleblower screeds. This idea of there being like a one or more UFO manufacturing centers in the oceans, creating UFOs, UAP on demand for that are specialized to whatever task it is, and that the entities that we're encountering may in fact be automata, avatars, some way of, remotely controlled interfacing with us. And this latest one that, again, the QAnon Anonymous podcast deals with is the one that says, you want a disclosure, I am a whistleblower, recently retired from the inside. The idea expressed in this one really seems to be finding traction in the subtext of a lot of UFO discourse, UAP disclosure discourse that I'm seeing online now. And that is this possibility that there is something this is from a year ago with Jim Simivan and Landoli's podcast, talking about, and I'm sorry if those names mean nothing to you. It's a little inside baseball, I suppose. But if you're paying attention, Jim Simivan is one of the key insider military industrial complex CIA aviation guys, I believe, that was part of Tom DeLonge's To the Stars Academy. And Landoli is an experiencer who has his own podcast and has been interviewing people like Simivan and DeLonge and others, big heavy hitters. And Simivan used this phrase that maybe the truth about UFOs is being hidden because it's, I think the word he may have used is undigestible. And very recently, Ross Coulthart interviewing Lou Elizondo invoked that same word. And this idea goes way back, of course, even to John Keel, when he expressed the idea that if humanity knew the truth about the UFO phenomena, they would throw their children out the window, or some crazy hyperbolic phrase like that. But in this latest screed that again is covered by the QAnon folks with their episode Alien Ant Farms and Space Communists, there is, again, I believe this idea that some of the UFO stuff is from craft that are hidden in the ocean. But what it all comes down to, and what the truth that is being hidden from us all, is that 10,000 years ago, a spacefaring humanoid, human-like, space brother-like species discovered us in the same way that we might discover exoplanets using, signals intelligence. And when they discover planets that may be developing life, they go and investigate. But 10,000 years ago, they abducted thousands of early proto-humans and took them to a different planet, and gave them the technology for like self-replicating resource object creation, and that planet has a society of quote unquote space communists, where it's like the replicators on Star Trek. They can have homes replicated, they can have food replicated, they can clothing, that there's no capitalism, that they have advanced hundreds of years, if not maybe 1,000 years past where we are technologically. And that's the big secret, is that the government doesn't want us to know that the capitalist American government doesn't want us to know about the success of these space communists, or that we were influenced or interfered with by this extraterrestrial species. And oh, by the way, there are these alien space ants that are very negative and are going to invade, and the other, I don't know, it's very complicated, and it reads like science fiction, and thus, yeah, as chaos fiction or just science fiction, it's fun, it's interesting, and it has very strange parallels to certain aspects of the UFO phenomena, especially again this current batch of disclosure advocacy. Anyway, I'll provide the links, and if you can explore this on your own if you like. But again, it just reminded me of that that episode of back in August of 2023, where I called attention to this discussion between Walter Bosley, Tim Binnall, and Joshua Cutchin, where they touched on this in a way that I recognized that they were probably riffing on this latest 4chan and Reddit alleged whistleblowers, and just the context of here we are just dealing with the fallout of the rollout of quote unquote alleged artificial intelligence. And I found it also kind of funny that that episode was titled by Walter Bosley, "Ufology on Parade." Of course, ufology being a play on ufology, UFO-ology, but ufology after the phrase I think that Jim Moseley of Saucer Smear created so many years or decades ago to describe the UFO community. And just recently, I was interviewed by Steve Berg for his High Strangeness show, his High Strangeness podcast, High Strangeness. And I really recommend his podcast, High Strangeness. There's a video version on his YouTube channel, or you can listen to the audio only versions. He interviewed me, and that should be dropping sometime soon. But I've been playing catch up with his past episodes, and interestingly enough, in the episode, the YouTube one dropped 3 weeks ago with Rob Christofferson, who has had a really great UFO podcast called oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's like Our Skies. I think it's OSU, Our Skies something. Anyway, really good podcast on the UFO subject, and he's recently launched a blog on Substack where he's doing a lot of writing and coming to terms with strange experiences of his life. And in this interview by Steve Berg on Steve's High Strangeness podcast, towards the end of it, he starts basically intimating pretty much exactly the same thing that I was just commenting about Walter Bosley, Tim Binnall, and Cutchin talking about in terms of the changing nature of the phenomena, and how not so much about the AI aspect, but the change from like mass sightings to more personalized sightings and personal encounters. And that struck me as, again, very interesting possible interpretation and insight into the nature of the true UFO phenomena. But the other strange thing is his new, I think it's Substack. His new blog is called, I believe it's called Ufology as well. So yeah, just weird synchronicities and resonances within the stuff that I've been consuming ufologically lately. So is there any significant meaning there? Oh, of course not. I'm just having fun and waxing about these weird coinky dinks. Yep, that's all. Anyway, I'll hopefully put links in the show notes to all this stuff, and you can check it out if you're interested. Again, I don't put much stake in the these supposed whistleblowers, but yeah. All right, what else we got here? Yeah. So, I've certainly complained a lot about or expressed concern about this cadre of tech bro seeming UFO podcasters and their possible connections and known connections to rich people of the billionaire class, like Peter Thiel. That, of course, referring to Jesse Michaels, who used to be or is or will always be connected to Peter Thiel. His American Alchemy show, which I really think there's a lot of great content there. And this Chris Ramsey, however you pronounce his name, guy, he has a really good show called Area 52 that's got great production and interesting subject matter. Well, they are doing a 2026 tour. They only have 2 tour dates, but one of them is here in Austin, Texas on February 5th. And then one is in Montreal, Canada, February 20th. And I was made aware of this by a local friend who thankfully has invited me. They bought tickets and have invited me to go to this. And I'm intrigued to see it, even as I have obviously expressed concerns about all these fellows. But I do like the interviews that they do and find the subject matter, of course, right up my alley. And this is not an endorsement, but I did want to play this cute trailer that they've done for, oh gosh, it's not showing up. Hold on, folks. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, as I was saying, not an endorsement, but it's a cute trailer for this tour. Check it out.
We interrupt this broadcast for a very important briefing.
You've been selected purely at random and definitely not monitored to attend a routine informational briefing regarding odd happenings across the globe.
There's absolutely nothing unusual about this.
That's right. It's probably nothing.
Agents Ramsey and Michaels will embark on a perfectly ordinary North American tour to discuss strange sightings, testimonies, and evidence that will force the government to say,
It's probably nothing.
each evening's sessions will feature expert analysis, audience interrogation, and at least one moment where you turn to the person next to you and whisper, well, but rest assured,
It's probably nothing.
should you experience confusion, excitement, or sudden clarity during the show, do not worry.
It's probably nothing.
Whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or simply dating one, your attendance is highly encouraged and statistically safe.
So if you're in Austin, Texas,
Or in Montreal, Canada.
Go to itsprobablynothing.com to secure your seats today. And remember, crash saucers, mysterious abductions, nuclear flyovers, it's probably nothing. Now back to your regular scheduled programming.
All right, that's it's cute, and they've got great sets. Ha ha ha. Yeah. All right. Well, other stuff I've been consuming. I'm not sure if you are perhaps familiar with this new young newcomer to the UFO scene. I'm not familiar with him very much, but I've been very much enjoying his YouTube channel. That is the channel for Jason Samosa. His channel is, Jason Samosa. And he's been doing a number of deep dives into Jacques Vallée and especially just trawling Jacques' forbidden science journals for data and information. And he's one of, two different podcasts that have been featuring a lot of content based on, again, this kind of deep dive into Jacques' forbidden science journals. And as I said in last week's episode, my main gripe about the Age of Disclosure documentary is that without ever mentioning it, pretty much everything in it you could have already been aware of if you read Jacques Vallée's Forbidden Science journals. Yes. And I know it's people don't read books anymore. They'd rather watch some slick documentary that's got an appeal to authority by having all these obviously highfalutin political people. But this recent two-parter from Jason Somoza, Jacques Vallée's most controversial UFO theory, part 1, Jacques Vallée reveals the true origins of UFO disclosure. And the one from just 5 days ago that I just recently finished, Jacques Vallée exposes the Nazi UFO myth coming from the deep state, with the placard saying, quote, "They're lying to you about the Nazis." No, this isn't some pro-Nazi propaganda by Jason Somoza. He's pointing out, among other things, he's again doing a really interesting deep dive into the history of the OSAP ATIP campaign, and the To the Stars Academy campaign, and of course all the details, all the historic timeline aspects featured by Jacques in his Forbidden Science journals. And it's and also trying to use it to unlock some of the things that have come out about Lou Elizondo and ATIP and Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy and all that. And without giving anything away, just suffice to say that I find it really encouraging that Jason Somoza is, like I have for so long, endorsing Vallée. Yes, he's a human, and he can and does and will make mistakes, but he has always struck me as someone you can trust, generally speaking, more so than anybody else in the UFO field. And I hope I've never learned something to totally change my attitude about that. I know that as we've covered the revelation in the latest book about his and Gary Nolan approaching Peter Thiel for funding on some non-UFO related project is a little disconcerting. But what I have known about Vallée all along is that he has been hobnobbing with a wide array of people who I don't always agree with their politics or worldviews. But if everything non-UFO related in Jacques' Forbidden Science journals isn't any true account and indication of the deepest aspects of his humanity, I don't feel worried by that. I trust his moral compass. That said, there's some very fascinating stuff in this episode that Jason Somoza put out 5 days ago, and I would encourage folks to go check this out. These are 35 to 45 minute deep dives, and I find them very informative. I am still like about a third of the way through volume 6 of Vallée's journals, and I really need to fast read the rest, but because there's just so much there, as I've discovered from all these other researchers who've been reporting on this, including I've mentioned them before, Klaus and Garrett of the Patterns Tell Stories, UFOs and High Strangeness podcast. They finally put out parts 1 and 2 of new episodes, The State of Disclosure. Interestingly, it sounds like they have not actually watched Age of Disclosure, and they're not giving a review of it, but they are talking about the same old things that they always do about everything surrounding this topic. And I do recommend you check out this stuff. Of course, these latest episodes are, I believe, Patreon only exclusives. But there's, again, great references and information about all this stuff. But again, they are very keen on again that the whole Nazi Antarctica stuff, which again I think there's a lot of misinformation there, and that's one of the things I liked about Somoza's coverage in that latest video is he's expressing how this is all coming out of the Tom DeLonge TTSA, to the Stars Academy milieu, and part of why previously mentioned Jim Simivan and Jacques Vallée have expressed concerns and confusion as to why this seems to be coming from these alleged military insiders that have been advising Tom DeLonge going back, to 2016 or before, and on into current time. And a lot of this is incorporated into the fiction element, but again, it's very curious. And again, I just, there's so much head scratching material here, but anyway, I've been enjoying checking all this out. Going back just briefly to the issue of the Age of Disclosure documentary, with this coming out, one of the big people being pushed by Dan Farah, the director of Age of Disclosure, he's constantly focusing on and harping on Rubio, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and quoting him as all these things he said about the fact that we've got this reverse engineering program and crash retrievals and alien bodies and all this stuff. But in this recent interview with Sean Hannity, I believe, on Sean Hannity, the title is Rubio, he has broken every deal he has ever made. It's mostly not about UFOs, but right up front, Hannity asks him about the UFO thing, and Rubio doesn't disavow what he said or the film, but he makes clear, and I got to thank Patrick Armstrong of the Vetted podcast for being so on top of this, and I think steering people towards more skepticism about the Age of Disclosure documentary and this post 2017 disclosure movement. Rubio makes clear that he has no firsthand knowledge and that he was just repeating what he's been told by others, and ascribes to it being, giving the impression that he has had this firsthand experience because of the creative editing of the filmmakers. In other words, there's still no evidence for any of this. Now, we covered in the previous week's episode how a lot of material, again, that's in the film, George Bush Sr. talking to Eric Davis about Roswell and Corso and reverse engineering and the Holloman film and that sort of thing. That's all predates, anything recent. That was all recorded by Jacques Vallée in his journals. And so again, is in those books, and isn't something newly invented, but yeah, it's really important to know. And this is all on the heels of, Michael Schellenberger, who, is this quote unquote supposed independent journalist who most lefties would think is right leaning. And on his site, public.news, he's put out two things back to back, December 2nd and 3rd. Secretary of State Rubio believes U.S. recovered alien tech and gave it to private military contractors. Quote, "We are headed toward massive disclosure," unquote, says a senior advisor to America's top diplomat and Trump's national security advisor. Now, I think most of the article is paywalled, but Ross Coulthart and others are making big hay out of this. And Schellenberger is basically following the script, so to speak, of Age of Disclosure, saying that Rubio believes all this, and that supposedly one of his advisors has said to Schellenberger that there's massive disclosure coming, and this trope that Trump is considering being the disclosure president is really being touted and moved around and how do you say, uplifted. But I think, and then the next day, Schellenberger put out a video and statement saying Trump must reveal what the government knows about UAP. And I do think he has a point here, even though I have my own feelings that I'm not going to express here about who should be the disclosure president. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Fox News last night that the interview he gave for the new documentary film, The Age of Disclosure about Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, or what used to be called UFOs, was, quote, 3 or 4 years ago when I was in the Senate, that, quote, I was describing what people had said to me, not things that I have firsthand knowledge of, unquote. He described the pretty spectacular claims made by people with high clearances in government and said, I just don't have any independent way to verify everything they said. But he also said, I'm not disavowing. Now this is where I agree with this. Schellenberger says, if Rubio feels he lacks the power to verify the claims in the film, then he should explain why, as NSA and Secretary of State, NSA National Security Advisor, and Secretary of State, Rubio has unparalleled access to special access program briefings, compartmented intelligence, and interagency assessments comprised of top secret and classified information. If Rubio cannot determine whether highly cleared officials are telling the truth or lying, that raises questions as troubling as those around UAP. I could not agree more. Yeah. So what to do? I also wanted to comment on this information. Oh, did I not open that? Right. In a recent episode of Micah Hanks' podcast, the Micah Hanks program, his X podcast, the extra episode, he did a show called The OSAP Controversy. And yes, he deals with one of the things that I was saying last week about the fact that you will not hear OSAP or Bigelow or Skinwalker Ranch, for that matter, mentioned in the Age of Disclosure documentary. It's all about ATIP, and I think there's really important reasons for that. But one of the things that I really appreciate about Micah is that he's a straight shooter, and he basically says what has largely gone unsaid, except by those trying to defame directly Lou Elizondo. And I'm not trying to do that, but I've long expressed concern and skepticism about the narrative that he was the director of some Pentagon UFO investigation program. And in fact, where is the other link I wanted to show? Well, dang it. Not sure where. Anyway, Micah basically says in this episode, he doesn't literally, this is a paraphrase, but what it comes down to is that Lou Elizondo did not ever lead any official UFO program. The official program ended, and then it was unofficially continued without funding and without, I assume, any kind of formal structure or prerogative, really, if that's the right word. And of course, this has been stated for quite some time. Back in 2019, John Greenwald Jr. posted this: the Pentagon denies Luis Elizondo's role in ATIP. Here's my take. This is from June of 2019. And he quotes this infamous Pentagon spokesperson, Christopher Sherwood, who said, Mr. Elizondo had no responsibilities with regard to the ATIP program while he worked in OUSDI, the Office of Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, up until the time he resigned, effective October 4th, 2017. And, people have gotten really been out of shape about this. And there's been a lot of people who've gone to the mat, so to speak, in saying, no, everything Lou says he did, but it remains to be, it needs to be restated that he's been promoting himself as if he was part of some official program, and that's just apparently never was the case. And so he, as one of the main spokespeople for the Age of Disclosure documentary, that just excludes all the other official part of the program that he was associating himself with and has been associated with by the work of other people, just kind of rubs me the wrong way. There was this other link I that's from from the Black Vault and Greenwald, navigating the twisted maze of the ATIP timeline. And this is another good link that where Greenwald is trying to lay it all out so that it's more explicit. And all I'm saying that Micah basically makes clear, without being accusatory, because he's a nice guy, that Elizondo was just like part of an informal program and then left. So I don't know. What do I mean to say with all that? Well, we're fast approaching an hour mark. There's a ton of other news that I really want folks to know about. Really fun, interesting stuff over at Shannon Taggart's Substack, Ninja in the 1980s. Can a Thought Be Photographed? From my recent 5-part essay series for the Walker Art Center, I've been revisiting moments from the history of thoughtography, or the attempt to project mental images on photographic surfaces. This has always been a fascinating subject area that I think our listeners would find interesting. Again, that's over at shannontaggart.substack.com. Again, the links will be in the show notes. Some other great stuff. Some cryptozoology news. Texas truck driver reports Bigfoot sighting. That's coming from coasttocoastam.com. These rare whales had never been seen alive. Then a team in Mexico sighted 2. Hiding in plain sight, 2 recently revealed cryptozoological examples. So a lot of great cryptozoology news that you might find interesting. This one from Carl Schuker, his blog, Hiding in Plain Sight, 2 recently revealed cryptozoological examples, including this sample of the St. Augustine globster tissue. And this one from The Guardian. These rare whales had never been seen alive. Then a team in Mexico sighted 2. And like I said, the Tim Banal reporting Texas truck driver reports Bigfoot. Truck driver in Texas recently spotted what he suspects was a Sasquatch walking through a field. The interesting daylight sighting shared with the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization occurred on the morning of November 18th as witness Wayne Yarian was cruising along the highway near Garden Valley, a town situated around 80 miles east of Dallas. You can click through to the bfro.net website for the report there. Report number 79470. And so much other great news or interesting news in the consciousness, health, mind, body, parapsychological connections. These headlines like "Your brain rewrites your memories each time you recall them," new study finds. This is something that many researchers have been saying for a long time, that we talk about, their retelling of their UFO sighting or UFO encounter or strange experience hasn't changed. Well, memory is a very strange beast, and as any of you who've grown old, as you age, you come across many personal experiences with how memory is a very malleable thing. Other interesting headlines: a surprising antidepressant, how laughing gas is emerging as a rapid treatment for severe depression. That's very interesting. Experts explore new mushroom which causes fairy tale like hallucinations. Wow, that really sounds kind of like DMT and the self-transforming machine elves of hyperspace that McKenna described. So this is over at Natural History Museum of Utah. Experts explore new mushroom which causes fairy tale-like hallucinations. And picture this. You're enjoying a delicious bowl of mushroom soup, and suddenly you notice hundreds of tiny people dressed in cartoonish clothing marching across your tablecloth, jumping into your bowl, swimming around, and clinging to your spoon as you lift it for another taste. You're not dreaming. You've just experienced the effects of a mushroom known scientifically as L'Anomaly asiatica. It belongs to an entirely different class of fungi than the more commonly known magic mushrooms and remains far more mysterious. Also, what else we got? Oh, yes. Humans can detect buried objects without touching them, study finds. This from over at gizmodo.com. We apparently have more in common with some shorebirds than we previously thought. And this is intriguing. Recent research suggests that humans have a surprising ability. We can sometimes feel a physical object before making contact with it. In a study published this past October in the journal IEEE International Conference on Development and Learning, researchers found that similarly to some shorebirds, we have a form of remote touch. Simply put, when you move your hand through granular materials like sand, you can feel an object buried in said material before touching it directly. Quote, it's the first time that remote touch has been studied in humans, and it changes our conception of the perceptual world, what is called the receptive field in living beings, including humans. Wow, very intriguing. Well, that's going to have to do it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to Anomaly Now for Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. I've been your host, Smiles Lewis, and that's going to be it. Good night. Farewell. Happy holidays. See you next week, maybe. And yeah, go to Patreon, sign up, and hey, subscribe to the tiers, Anomaly Academy Cadet tier, so that you can see Brad Abrahams give his presentation. I think it's going to be pretty freaking cool. And yeah, do it.